Japan's most powerful earthquake ever triggers a monster tsunami. Fear washes over the nation. But that's just the beginning. 10 nuclear reactors at 2 power plants are crippled, threatening the unimaginable.
If Tokyo needed to be evacuated, I feared the entire nation of Japan would be paralyzed by chaos.
It became darker and darker. A terrifying situation. We were fighting an invisible enemy, out-of-control reactors.
What will it take to save the country from radiation?
Mankind has never faced the forces of physics and the forces of nature that those people faced.
Nuclear meltdown disaster, right now on Nova.
Major funding for NOVA is provided by the following. The David H. Koch Fund for Science, supporting NOVA and promoting public understanding of science. And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by PBS viewers like you. Thank you. And Millicent Bell, through the Millicent and Eugene Bell Foundation. Additional funding from the Montgomery Family Foundation.
This is the road to nowhere. A once thriving place in one of the most prosperous countries on Earth. Japan. Radioactive Japan. Time stood still here on March 11th, 2011. Houses that aren't homes. Schools that are silent. Stores shuttered. Towns without people. Past the checkpoints, the scans, and the meticulous suit-up, layer upon layer upon layer of protection, is the place we simply know as Fukushima. Site of 3 nuclear reactor meltdowns.
This is called the Central Control Room. All of the equipment at the power plant is operated from here.
He is a nuclear plant operator. This is where he has always worked. He used to live nearby, but now he too cannot go home. He and his co-workers are ashamed, scorned by the neighbors they once had.
We've been through so much in this control room. It's hard to put into words.
He was here when it happened. Now he is hoping to make amends by helping clean up the toxic mess.
4 years ago, this room was completely dark. We had only small fluorescent lights and flashlights. We had given up on our own survival. Now, talking to you with the lights on, it seems like a lifetime ago.
This is the story of the Fukushima meltdowns. The infamous events at Fukushima Daiichi, or number 1, told by those who were there and risked everything. And the lesser-known story of its sister plant 7 miles away, Fukushima Daini, or number 2. It faced the same onslaught and challenges. But thanks to a little luck and a Herculean effort, it was saved from ending up like this. March 11th, a bad day for Japan and the world, could have been so much worse. The inevitable came without warning at 2:46 p.m. Two giant pieces of the Earth's crust, tectonic plates, move suddenly and violently. One pushes down, causing the plate above it to spring upward like a catapult along a 300-mile fault line. In a nation all too familiar with earthquakes, it is the largest ever recorded. Magnitude 9. Propagating outward at 9,000 miles an hour, record-breaking seismic waves careen toward land and the 10 nuclear reactors at the 2 Fukushima plants. All of them designed by General Electric, owned and operated by the largest utility in Japan, the Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO. They are there to feed the insatiable energy needs of Tokyo.
Suddenly, I heard the earth rumble like a fierce growl. It was an extremely intense earthquake. But it wasn't only strong, it was also terribly long.
An American nuclear reactor service technician, Carl Pilateri, is there doing some upgrades.
It was just one big hammer. The entire building was moving. Everything was coming down. The lights were crashing everywhere. And it just got worse from there, actually. In 1 nanosecond, just the entire floor went black.
The shaking was like nothing I had experienced. The operators either held on to that bar or crouched down. That's how we endured the earthquake.
I just wondered, how long is this going to continue?
It lasts 6 minutes. Takayuki Inagaki is general manager of the maintenance department for units 1 through 4 at Daiichi. He reports directly to the superintendent, Masao Yoshida. Both men have spent their entire careers at TEPCO. Inagaki worries about his wife and 2 sons.
When the earthquake hit, I think I sent one email to my wife, explaining that I didn't think I'd be able to come home for a while. After I sent it, we lost contact with the outside. We couldn't even make calls.
Seismometers at nuclear plants are designed to trigger an automatic emergency response after an earthquake. Power plant operators routinely drill for this, but it is still a risky, tense event. Called a scram, it is designed to put the brakes on the nuclear chain reaction of sustained fission. A nuclear reactor is fueled by uranium, an element that naturally splits apart, releasing neutrons. But uranium fission can induce more fission. When a loose neutron fires into a nearby uranium nucleus, it becomes unstable and quickly splits. Each time an atom splits, it generates heat. To make fission robust enough to generate power, uranium is enriched, shaped into pellets, and then stacked in long tubes called fuel rods. This ensures lots of uranium atoms are close enough to each other to allow a healthy chain reaction. To manage the rate of the reaction, control rods that absorb neutrons are moved in and out of spaces among the fuel. During a scram, the control rods are pushed all the way in, terminating the chain reaction. By 3:02, operators at Daiichi confirm the 3 reactors that were online have successfully scrammed. And at Fukushima Daini, all 4 reactors running full throttle also automatically shut down safely. Even though the nuclear chain reaction has now abruptly stopped, the uranium fuel rods remain very hot. It's called decay heat.
The nuclear chain reaction was stopped within seconds, but the decay heat continued to be a problem. It takes approximately 20 to 24 hours for the systems to cool the reactor down to less than 212 degrees and achieve what's called cold shutdown.
At its core, a nuclear power plant is not unlike a pressure cooker on a stove. Water is heated to the boiling point, creating steam. And steam under pressure turns turbines, generating electricity. The complexity and cost of nuclear energy is about keeping the radioactive genie in the bottle. So the uranium fuel sits inside rods, underwater, in a steel pressure vessel, surrounded by a concrete and steel containment structure, inside a reactor building. All those layers of protection are there in case the water stops flowing. If that happens, it quickly boils away, exposing the fuel, and it melts, turning into radioactive magma. Unchecked, it will melt right through the steel reactor vessel and onto the concrete and steel containment structure that surrounds it. So at the Fukushima plants now, it is critical that the electric water pumps and valves keep running for the reactor core to safely cool down. Power normally comes from the electric grid, and the earthquake has caused a blackout. But there is a plan B. The plant is equipped with diesel-electric generators to provide power in an emergency. They start automatically, as they're designed to do.
If it had only been the earthquake, we wouldn't be here today. The safety systems were doing their thing, the reactor cores were being cooled, and things were going pretty well.
When the seafloor suddenly moves upward during the earthquake, it causes the water near the epicenter to rise with it. The giant swell is the start of a tsunami. Forecasters issue a tsunami warning. They predict 10-foot-high waves in Fukushima Prefecture. The main buildings at Daiichi and Daini are about 30 feet above sea level. So no one worries much about a tsunami. And then at 3:27 p.m., the first of 7 giant waves crashes over the seawall.
Then I saw the tsunami coming. I was on top of that hill, wondering if I was high enough. This thing was, it was huge.
The tallest surge of water is nearly 50 feet high, more than twice the height of the seawall.
I assumed there would be a tsunami, but not one 50 or 55 feet high. I couldn't even imagine a tsunami like that.
Fukushima Daiichi is inundated. 2 workers drown, trapped in the basement of the number 4 turbine building. Six generators, along with the wiring, switches, and breakers connecting them to the plant, are located in the basements of the turbine buildings for units 1 through 4. The floodwaters destroy them